Objectivism, which I gave in New York City in 1976. The lectures were prepared with some assistance from Miss Rand, who attended all 12 of them, and after most, joined with me to answer questions from the audience. Until or unless I write a comprehensive treatise on my philosophy, Miss Rand wrote that year in the Ayn Rand letter, Dr. Peikoff's course is the only authorized presentation of the entire theoretical structure of objectivism, i.e., the only one that I know of my own knowledge to be fully accurate. In 1984, 8 years later and 2 years after her death, I began to revise the lectures for publication. I soon found that many of their formulations could be made more precise. I found arguments that I could now develop more cogently, examples that I could make more eloquent, and crucial new integrations that I only now understood. Above all, I found that the ideas required a more logical order of presentation. All these improvements changed the nature of the project. My task became not to edit, but to rewrite the lecture material. Since some of Ayn Rand's most important ideas are expressed only briefly or not at all in her books, the absence of a reference note in my text does not imply that the point is my own. On the contrary, where no reference is given, the material in all likelihood is taken from the lengthy philosophic discussions that I had with Miss Rand across a period of decades. This is especially true of the material on metaphysics and epistemology, which were the primary subjects of our discussions, but it applies throughout. Our discussions were not a collaboration. I asked questions, she answered them. In rewriting the lectures, moreover, I have not changed or added to any of Ayn Rand's ideas. My contribution is not to the substance of objectivism, which is entirely Ayn Rand's achievement, but to the form of its presentation. The reader must, however, bear in mind that Ayn Rand has not seen the new wording or organization. For those who want to compare the lectures with the present book, cassettes of the former are still available for purchase from Second Renaissance Books, Box 4625, Oceanside, California, 92052. Because of my 30 years of study under her, and by her own statement, I am the person next to Ayn Rand who is the most qualified to write this book. Since she did not live to see it, however, she is not responsible for any misstatements of her views it may contain, nor can the book be properly described as official objectivist doctrine. Objectivism is the name of Ayn Rand's philosophy as presented in the material she herself wrote or endorsed. To be objective, I identify the status of my work as follows. This book is the definitive statement of Ayn Rand's philosophy, as interpreted by her best student and chosen heir. Leonard Peikoff, December 1991. 1. Reality. Philosophy is not a bauble of the intellect, but a power from which no man can abstain. Anyone can say that he dispenses with a view of reality, knowledge, the good, but no one can implement this credo. The reason is that man, by his nature as a conceptual being, cannot function at all without some form of philosophy to serve as his guide. Ayn Rand discusses the role of philosophy in her West Point lecture, Philosophy, Who Needs It? Without abstract ideas, she says, you would not be able to deal with concrete, particular, real-life problems. You would be in the position of a newborn infant, to whom every object is a unique, unprecedented phenomenon. The difference between his mental state and yours lies in the number of conceptual integrations your mind has performed. You have no choice about the necessity to integrate your observations, your experiences, your knowledge into abstract ideas, i.e., into principles. Your only choice, she continues, is whether your principles are true or false, rational or irrational, consistent or contradictory. The only way to know which they are is to integrate your principles. What integrates them? Philosophy. A philosophic system is an integrated view of existence. As a human being, you have no choice about the fact that you need a philosophy. Your only choice is whether you define your philosophy by a conscious, rational, disciplined process of thought and scrupulously logical deliberation, or let your subconscious accumulate a junk heap of unwarranted conclusions, false generalizations, undefined contradictions, undigested slogans, unidentified wishes, doubts, and fears, thrown together by chance, but integrated by your subconscious into a kind of mongrel philosophy and fused into a single solid weight. Self-doubt, like a ball and chain in the place where your mind's wings should have grown. Philosophy, in Ayn Rand's view, is the fundamental force shaping every man and culture. It is the science that guides men's conceptual faculty, and thus every field of endeavor that counts on this faculty. The deepest issues of philosophy are the deepest root of men's thought. See Chapter 4. Their action, see Chapter 12. Their history, see the epilogue, and therefore of their triumphs, their disasters, their future. Philosophy is a human need as real as the need of food. It is a need of the mind, without which man cannot obtain his food or anything else his life requires. To satisfy this need, one must recognize that philosophy is a system of ideas. By its nature as an integrating science, it cannot be a grab bag of isolated issues. All philosophic questions are interrelated. One may not, therefore, raise any such questions at random without the requisite context. If one tries the random approach, then questions which one has no means of answering simply proliferate in all directions. Suppose, for example, that you read an article by Ayn Rand and glean from it only one general idea with which you decide you agree. Man should be selfish. How, you must soon ask, is this generality to be applied to concrete situations? What is selfishness? Does it mean doing whatever you feel like doing? What if your feelings are irrational? But who is to say what's rational or irrational? And who is Ayn Rand to say what a man should do anyway? Maybe what's true for her isn't true for you, or what's true in theory isn't true in practice. What is truth? Can it vary from one person or realm to another? And come to think of it, aren't we all bound together? Can anyone ever really achieve private goals in this world? If not, there's no point in being selfish. What kind of world is it? And if people followed Ayn Rand, wouldn't that lead to monopolies or cutthroat competition, as the socialists say? And how does anyone know the answers to all these and many similar questions? What method of knowledge should a man use? And how does one know that? For a philosophic idea to function properly as a guide, one must know the full system to which it belongs. An idea plucked from the middle is of no value, cannot be validated, and will not work. One must know the idea's relationship to all the other ideas that give it context, definition, application, proof. One must know all this not as a theoretical end in itself, but for practical purposes. One must know it to be able to rely on an idea, to make rational use of it, and, ultimately, to live. In order to approach philosophy systematically, one must begin with its basic branches. Philosophy, according to objectivism, consists of 5 branches. The 2 basic ones are metaphysics and epistemology. Metaphysics is the branch of philosophy that studies the nature of the universe as a whole. The objectivist metaphysics is covered in the present chapter on reality. Epistemology is the branch that studies the nature and means of human knowledge, chapters 2 through 5. These 2 branches make possible a view of the nature of man, chapter 6. Flowing from the above are the 3 evaluative branches of philosophy. Ethics, the broadest of these, provides a code of values to guide human choices and actions, chapters 7 through 9. Politics studies the nature of a social system and defines the proper functions of government, chapters 10 and 11. Aesthetics studies the nature of art and defines the standards by which an artwork should be judged, chapter 12. In presenting objectivism, I shall cover the 5 branches in essential terms, developing each in hierarchical order and offering the validation of each principle or theory when I first explain it. The true, said Hegel, is the whole. At the end of our discussion, to borrow these terms, you will see a unique whole, the whole which is Ayn Rand's philosophic achievement. You may then judge for yourself whether it is an important achievement and whether it is true. Every philosophy builds on its starting points. Where then does one start? What ideas qualify as